What's happening, football fans? Coach Kevin Smith with you for a Whiteboard Wednesday episode of the Call Sheet Daily. My favorite day of the week where we get to talk about the scheme of the great game of football. And normally I'm doing this with another coach. Had some guys in the mix this week to join me on Whiteboard Wednesday. We couldn't really make the schedules match up. So I'm going to go solo today as we take a deep dive on the power read concept. This is a concept I think will be of interest to a lot of coaches, fans, etc. One of the great offensive concepts in the game of football today. If you're looking forward to another episode where some of the great coaches here in Southern New Jersey or in the college game or even pro coaches join me on the program, stay tuned. Hang in there. This Friday, I'm going to have a great guest, legendary coach here in Southern New Jersey, Sal Marquez, longtime head coach at Delsea Regional. Sal was the head coach there for over 30 years. He won more championships than he has fingers to put all the rings on. And I'm not kidding about that. I'm being literal. I think they won more than 10. I don't know the exact number. I'm going to ask Sal. I think they won about a dozen championships in his time at Delsea Regional. And if you know anything about Delsea football, you know this. They were tough, a physically tough football team. And this is an era where you hear a lot of people criticize young people today and say, oh, kids are soft. Kids today are soft. Well, anybody who's ever played Delsea, especially when Sal Marquez was the head coach, understands that football team was not soft. And so our topic on Friday when Sal joins me will be building toughness in a football program. How do you build toughness in an era where some of the toughness in our society is actually being stripped away in some degrees? So join me on Friday. That's going to be a great conversation with Sal. But today, Whiteboard Wednesday, let's dive in on power read. That's a great concept. That's a concept that is being now used almost universally from the youth level all the way up through the NFL. You're actually seeing NFL teams run power read. The Chiefs are the Bills are doing it. The Ravens are doing it. You know, I even saw the Commanders do it a little bit. I don't know how much they want to run Jaden Daniels between the tackles, but they did a little bit of it. So it's a universal concept. So where does it come from? How's it work? What do you need to be good at it? We're going to cover all of that. So let's jump in first with the history, right? If you think about the read option game, because that's what power read is. It's a read option concept where the quarterback has the ability to give the football to a back or pull it and run it himself based upon his read of an unblocked defender. And that is not a new concept in the game of football. I mean, option football has been with us for a long, long time. Most people, when they think about the original option, the OG option, they think about the wishbone or the veer option from the 1970s in the old Southwestern Conference, teams like Texas and Oklahoma running it. And it kind of went away for a while, but when the spread offense was introduced in college football in the early 2000s, Rich Rod, Urban Meyer, coaches like that, a new form of option emerged, and that was the zone read, where now the quarterback, rather than be under center, was in the shotgun and he had a back off set, but it was still the same concept. He was reading an unblocked defender. On zone read, if the zone run is to your right, you're reading an unblocked defender away from the play action, so to your left. And that came into the game, 2004, 2005, right around there. But a couple years later, there was a new wrinkle in the read option game, power read. It wasn't even really called power read early on. People were calling it inverted veer because it looked like the veer option, except you were inverting the running backs. Rather than on the old veer option, have a running back dive into the A gap or the B gap and the quarterback potentially pull the ball and get to the edge, you were inverting it, with the running back being now the edge runner and the quarterback being the downhill B-gap attacker. We really first saw it from an unlikely source. TCU in 2009 ran it with Andy Dalton at quarterback. I don't think anybody that thinks of Andy Dalton says, oh, that guy was a great read option quarterback. But they ran power read at TCU and really kind of picked off Clemson in a bowl game because nobody had ever seen it before. Clemson had to sort of scramble on the fly to figure out how to defend it. And all it was Andy Dalton in the shotgun reading now, rather than read the backside unblocked edge defender like you did on zone read, he was reading the play side unblocked edge defender. So if you were running power blocking to the right and reading the right edge, he was unblocked. So think about your traditional power blocking scheme. On power, a run concept that's been with us forever. Everybody on the front side is blocking down. Everybody's got a gap down rule, gap down backer. You block the guy in your gap. Sometimes, depending on how you're doing the scheme exactly, you're going to double him to the backside backer or climb to the backside backer. The backside guard is going to wrap around to the front side backer, and somebody's kicking out the edge player. Fullback, H-back. In the NFL now, sometimes you see him motion a wide receiver down, and he'll do it. But on power read, there's nobody to kick that edge. That edge is unblocked. And the quarterback is reading him. So what made it unique is that unlike zone read, where the read of the unblocked defender is on the backside, now you're doing it on the front side. And it was a really great way of getting your quarterback into the B gap, because ultimately what it did, as the quarterback took the snap, he rode the back. The running back would be offset away from the play. So if you're running power to the right, the running back would be offset to his left. And now the running back is crossing the quarterback's face and running a sweep scheme to the perimeter. And what that really did was it widened the read key. It widened that unblocked edge defender because he naturally would flow with the running back. And that gave the quarterback a great opportunity now to pull the football and just get downhill into the B gap. The edge player expands, the QB pulls the ball, you've got a gaping B gap in which to run. And TCU did it with Andy Dalton, and then the very next year, Gus Malzahn at Auburn picked it up with Cam Newton, and they rode that sucker to the national championship. Auburn ran it like they invented it. And they almost did. They were early on the game. And of course, subsequent dual read quarterbacks like Robert Griffin, Lamar Jackson, etc., those guys would pick up with the scheme, and it's now become commonplace and it's used all over. All right, so why is it such a great scheme? Why is it so good? What are the benefits of running the read element of power, right? Rather than just run old school power, why has power read become so useful? Well, the biggest reason is because you can do it from spread formations. You can do it from a lighter box. You don't need that extra blocker in the box to kick out the end. Remember, every time you add a blocker to the formation, the defense adds a defender to the box. So if you're a spread team, or if you're a team that doesn't feel like you got a lot of big guys, a lot of fullback types, tight end types, this is a great way to get to power out of your spread sets. The other thing that you're doing in this scheme is you're threatening the defense both horizontally, and vertically. You have the horizontal threat of the back running sweep to the perimeter, which naturally stretches the defense because they've got to defend the entire width of the field. And then you've got the vertical threat of the quarterback pulling the football and heading downhill into the B gap behind old school power blocking. And that makes defenses incredibly uncomfortable because they have to be exceptionally disciplined. They have to be gap sound all across the board. And they even have to be gap sound on the backside because some of the really good power read teams get that quarterback once he punctures the line of scrimmage, once he heads up into the B gap and begins to climb to the second level, to make that second level cut to the backside. because sometimes you'll catch, with all that flow going in one direction, you'll catch that backside linebacker flying out of there. And if the quarterback can cut that thing back, he's off to the races. So you can run it out of spread sets. You're threatening the defense horizontally and vertically. It allows you to read the unblocked front side defender. And a lot of times defenses will put a stud as their 5 or their 9 tech to the front side to set a hard edge. And so now you don't have to block a guy who is most likely one of the defense's better defenders. Read that guy. You don't have to block him. It's like the old rules of option football, man. You're just reading the front side edge defender. And that was effective back in the Veer days, and it can be effective when you're running power read. And lastly, with the power read scheme, it's old school power blocking. On the front side, you have angles. You got numbers at the point of attack. You've got gap concepts, which let linemen just put their hand in the ground and get off the damn ball, man. You can, if you formation it so that you can get the defense to set their 3 tech to the power side, then you get a great double with your guard and tackle, man. And if you got a good guard and tackle, you should be able to move that double to the backside backer. You move the 3 tech on the double, you expand the 5 tech with the read. That's a hell of a B gap for your quarterback to run into. Just about everybody runs power in their offense. So the install here is inexpensive from a blocking perspective, right? You're not teaching your linemen anything new. You're just running power, man. That's probably something you install in minicamp. And here's I'll say this one more thing, one more benefit of it. And this is integral. This is key. If you want to be good at this scheme, you need to be able to run it both strong and weak. You need to be able to change the structure of it so that defenses can't get a bead on what you're doing. And we're going to talk about how to do that in a minute. All right. What are the risks? Obviously, there are risks. Well, the biggest risk is ball exchange. Anytime you've got a read option concept going, you need to rep the hell out of the ball exchange between the quarterback and the perimeter runner, whether he be a running back, maybe it's a jet man, whomever. That takes reps. And because it's a front side read, the quarterback's got to make a quicker decision. He's got a little more time on zone read because it's a backside read. All the action's going one way. The read is on the backside of the play. So the read key's a little further away from the quarterback. And he can take his time a little bit in making a decision. Ride and decide, you hear people say a lot on zone read. But on power read, that read key's right in his face. So it's got to be a quicker decision by the quarterback. And that quick decision requires great timing between he and the mesh back. So you need to rep that, man. Like if you're committing to power read, you got to rep that every day in practice. That can't be like, hey, we do it once a week for 5 minutes in an indie period. You got to commit to it. Power read's a commitment. It shouldn't be a novelty play. And the other risk is you're running the quarterback inside. You're going to run the quarterback up the B gap in between the tackles. And if you don't have a QB who can do that, or you don't have a quarterback who you feel confident in, or you're just worried about your quarterback getting hurt, then maybe the scheme's not for you. If you're going to run power read, you got to rep it, and you have to trust your quarterback. You need a good decision maker at quarterback, because if he's a guy who predetermines stuff, like if you think your quarterback is a predeterminer, he peeks at the edge key pre-snap and he decides, oh, he's wide, so I'm just going to pull the ball because he's wide. You're not going to be a good power read team. Your quarterback's got to be able to clear his mind and just read and react. Can't anticipate because defenses are too tricky, man. They're going to spike guys. They're going to spill guys. They're going to run gap exchanges. Got to trust your quarterback if you're going to commit to power read. So, what do you need to do well to run this concept? Well, it starts there. It starts with a quarterback who's a good decision maker, who you trust to run between the tackles, and who you trust with the football in his hands on plays that have some risk. You also better be able to block power well. If you can't double the 3-tech and move him, you can't move his butt to the second level, this might not be a scheme for you. You better have a plan, too, for defenses that are going to spill this concept. And by spill, we mean take that edge player and bring him down hard into the B gap to kind of force you to pull the ball. And now they're taking the linebacker and they're scraping him over the top to chase down the running back when he ultimately pulls it. Or I should say, to chase down the running back after the quarterback gives the football. You got to have a plan. You got to know what you're doing with that read key, right? Are you going to direct your guard to log him and now your quarterback's eyes go and read the linebacker? Are you going to just make that something that you're going to try to make difficult by formation? This is what I meant when I said change the structure of the play earlier, right? A great thing that you can do to offset the defense's ability to get a bead on where and when you're running power read is mess with the alignment of the back. Put him in pistol and shift him right or left. Put him to the left of the quarterback and then flip him over to the right side. If all you do is come out in the gun and you put the back opposite of where you're going to run power read every time, defenses will begin to pick up on that, and they'll begin to adjust accordingly. So line him up left and flip him right and run it opposite. Or line him up left and now bring your slot receiver from the right in jet motion as a jet man and now run power to the weak side, power read to the weak side, with the running back arcing as a lead blocker and the jet man as the perimeter runner. Defenses are too smart, are too good, are too tendency-oriented for you to give them the same structural look all the time and simply run power read out of that one look. Hey, as an additional wrinkle, run shovel read, right? Now line the running back up to the left of the quarterback, run your power blocking to the left, and use that running back as a pitch man, like an old school speed option. You're still reading off that unblocked edge player to your left. You've got the back as your old school perimeter pitch, but now you're bringing an H-back underneath or a receiver underneath, and rather than the quarterback jam it up there in the B gap, he just shovels the ball inside if he gets a pitch read, an inside read, I should say, from the read key. The read key widens. He just flips that thing inside. You see teams run that stuff on the goal line all the time. The Chiefs make a living of that on the goal line with Mahomes flipping the ball to Kelsey. They don't want to run Mahomes in the B gap, so get a big guy to do it. Shovel read. Awesome different types of wrinkles that you can add. Again, jet power read, shovel power read, change the read key by arcing and flipping the back pre-snap. You can run toss read where you put the running back on the play side. Again, this is a good tendency breaker if a team is going to run some gap exchange. Set your formation to the right. Put your back to the right. Now, what's the power read side? Oh, well, hey, it's to the left. It's away from the back. But no, now the back is just running a toss sweep path, and the quarterback is still reading that right unblocked end. He's reading the end now to the back side. And if the end sits, you just flip the ball to your back, and now you're blocking sweep on the perimeter. And if he doesn't, QB runs up inside the B gap like he normally would. And if you really want to get tricky, you can fake the toss read and now counter your quarterback back by running counter gap blocking to the other side, the old bash concept. Such a useful play. Power read. It's such a useful play. But again, to do it well, you better rep the hell out of it. You better trust your quarterback as a decision maker and as an inside runner. You better be willing to run your quarterback between the tackles. You better have some guys that can get on the perimeter, man. You got some quick running backs who can make some noise once they get on the perimeter. Or you got a slot that you like that you can use as a jet back and get him on the perimeter. And obviously, you better be able to block the power scheme. You better be able to teach it well, and you better be able to execute it well. So there's a lot of calculus that goes into power read. Don't run it lightly. Don't run it because you fall in love with it on the whiteboard. Don't go to a clinic and see some guy present it and tell you that they averaged 7.5 yards per carry when they ran power read last year and say, okay, we're going to put that in. Who doesn't want to average 7.5 yards per carry? You got to have the right elements. At Ocean City High School, we don't run it every year. We haven't run it every year because we haven't always had the quarterback that we felt was right for the scheme. But when we have committed to it, we've been pretty darn good at it because it's a tough play to stop if the elements are in place. You got the elements, run it. Run it enthusiastically, run it with diversity, run it anywhere on the field, man, because it stresses the hell out of the defense. Slow those tricky defenses down by making them defend horizontally, vertically, and being gap sound. Power read. All right, that's our show for Wednesday. We'll be back again with another show tomorrow at 10 a.m. And like I said, on Friday, Coach Sal Marquez, legend here in Southern New Jersey, going to talk about how do you build toughness in a football program. Looking forward to that conversation. Between now and then, have a great day, everybody. Take care.